So I just want to finish up with sort of what happens with the Arabs then.
Mm.
Very, 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 very quick whirlwind tour of that.
Sure.
So where we mentioned near the beginning, there's sort of these 4 great Arab leaders.
Mm.
And then 2 main ones in Arabia itself, in the Arabian Peninsula itself, is King Hussein of Mecca and Ibn Saud.
Yes.
And so in like very soon after, I think like 1920 or 1921, they go to war with each other.
Mm. And Hussein refuses British backing and support.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not Faisal in control of the army. Is it Abdullah? Or is it Zaid? One of the other brothers
Yes.
is in control of King Hussein's army. And politically speaking, we're backing both sides. So like the British Raj in India is backing Ibn Saud, and Cairo, and I think the foreign or the colonial office, something or other, war office, someone is backing Hussein still. But they go to war in Arabia and Hussein loses. And
British Empire just playing chess against itself.
yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ibn Saud wins
Mm.
and becomes king of Arabia. And thus we've got the House of Al Saud,
Mm.
and they rule to this day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So so Faisal's father and his family are sort of dispossessed, essentially.
Mm.
But just going forward, they're still made... It's complicated and there's all sorts of reasons, but they go on to become the kings and rulers of Iraq, Transjordan, as it was then known, and Syria.
Yeah.
And
Has a lot to do with Churchill, doesn't it?
yeah,
Churchill being in the colonial office, he gets told to basically figure out how to shore up the expenses in the Middle East, particularly Mesopotamia. And he takes Lawrence on as a special advisor. And actually, this is part of the reason why Lawrence is so complimentary towards Churchill, because he says that Churchill really listens to him. And he actually really, so when it's negotiated about could Abdullah potentially become king of Jordan and could Faisal, would the Iraqis, would the Mesopotamians accept Faisal as a king? And of course, there's some fiddling to make sure the election goes the right way and everything, but they do. And Faisal does become king of Iraq. And obviously Abdullah's house is still the same house that rules Jordan to this day.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So Lawrence's first main job after Versailles is, well, one of the people that loves him is just completely in awe of Lawrence is Winston Churchill. And Winston Churchill, even in 1920, is a power broker, a power player. Very, very important. He'd been in government already a bunch of times. He'd been First Lord of the Admiralty. After the Gallipoli affair, he went and commanded a battalion or something or other in the Western Front. Then after that, soon after that, he's back in government. He's head of, is it the Colonial Office?
Yes.
Or the War Office? The
Colonial.
Right. So, one of the most powerful people in government, again, Churchill, 1920 onwards. And he's like, and he loves Lawrence. Churchill, gushes like a schoolgirl about Lawrence. He's one of the greatest men there's ever been.
Yeah.
That's what
he later says, doesn't he, that 7 Pillars of Wisdom, it says it's up there with Robinson Crusoe and, the great classics.
Moby Dick.
Yeah.
It's one of the best things ever written.
Yeah.
And Lawrence, as a man, as a political mind, as a strategist, he's one of the best there ever was. That's how much Churchill loves Lawrence. So, after Versailles, when Churchill was in the Colonial Office, he's like, Lawrence, come and be my special advisor. Tell me how to rework the Near East.
Yeah.
And Lawrence says, okay, do this, and this. Make Faisal king here, make Abdullah king here. So although the House of Hussein, Hashemites, lose Arabia, they still actually remain the most important family, one of the most important families, because they hadn't found much or any real crude oil in Arabia at that point. One of the books I was reading, they were saying Al Saud could have never known how big his victory was.
Right, yes.
No one knew that there was sort of endless reserves of crude oil in Arabia at that point. They didn't know. And so it wasn't long. It was still by the 1940s they already knew. So, but at this point, it was still sort of not clear that was going to be the case.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Yeah.
So Saudi Arabia, even in the 20s, was it's still just a desert kingdom that no one really cares about or values. Obviously, there's the religious cities of Mecca and Medina, but if you're not a Muslim,
why do they matter?
No one cares about Arabia if you're not a Muslim.
Yes.
Right? And then suddenly by the 40s, or by the 30s anyway, certainly by the 40s, it's like, oh no, this is a global
gold mine of Yeah.
global key strategic importance, and even presidents of the United States need to ingratiate themselves with the House of Al Saud. So anyway, so the Near East is sort of reworked by the Colonial Office and Churchill and Lawrence of Arabia in like 1920, 1921, 1922.
Yes.
And so and we're left today with still a lot of the fallout of all of that is still going on. Of course, there's many more things have happened.
Of course,
since, like Israel, for example. But
yes.
still.
But those countries, Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, they're still there.
Syria,
they're still
Lebanon,
Syria, Lebanon. They're all still there.
Yeah,
100 years later.
Now, some people have said, this is one criticism some people said against Lawrence, which I think is completely unfair. It's like Lawrence is to blame for the mess that the Middle East is today because he had such a key role in making it that way. It's like, well, that's not how it works.
No, that's not
fair.
That's not fair.
Right? All the endless conflicts between Persians and Arabs and Syrians and Arabs and Jews and Arabs and Islam and Judaism and the Christians and the Armenians and the Kurds and the on and on. Lawrence didn't create that.
No.
They did the best they could to try and rework the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
Blame the Ottomans. Like, blame religion itself, right? Blame the thing that is inside the human heart which causes conflict, right? Lawrence tried his best to transition that part of the world away out of the Ottoman rule, which had lasted for centuries. Whenever an empire like that falls apart, it's going to be one big mess, right?
Of course.
So they actually did the best they could in the very, very early 20s. They could have like the way, for example, in the 18th and 19th century, Africa was carved up, quite often just drawing straight lines in a map.
Yeah.
Like that was a terrible, terrible thing to do because it just didn't take account of tribes and ethnicities and religions and things. We'll just draw a line on the map and this river is the border of this now. It's like, whoa. So that's not what they did. They were smart about it. They were like, well, these people exist here and these people exist there. So the border, that would be problematic if we don't do this and that way. It was actually the best they could have done. The absolute best they could have done in 1920, 1921. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. Far from perfect, in fact.
Yeah. But to hold Lawrence responsible for how things turned out 100 years later is a standard that you shouldn't really apply to someone's life.
It just doesn't hold water. When you look at the facts and you look at the chronology in detail of who said what when and whose armies went where, like Lawrence wasn't responsible for Ibn Saud defeating Hussein in Arabia.
Lawrence wasn't if Lawrence had been the final person of any importance to play a part in the Middle East, then maybe. But he's not. You know, he washed his hands of the entire thing shortly after his work with Churchill in 1921. And then it became the responsibility of numerous other men of power.
And of the people on the ground that were living there, the rulers that were living there. Don't they have any responsibility?
Yes.
No, it was Lawrence's fault, wasn't it? It's just nonsense.
If you would like to see the full version of this premium video, please head over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to gain full access to all of our premium content.